Hi, this is Dan Randlett, and you're listening to IPMNation.com.
Crema. Crema.
You are receiving a remote transmission from IPMNation.com. Stay tuned for further instructions. You are receiving a remote transmission from IPMNation.com. Stay tuned for further instructions.
IPMNation.com. It's Gigo.
Welcome everyone to Remote Transmission here on IPMNation.com. It's 11 p.m. here on the East Coast. Sitting here at Styling Souls at 832 Elm Street in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Matt Connerton sitting here with Dan Randlett. As always, how are you, Dan?
I'm doing wonderful, Matt. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic.
It's acoustic night tonight. I'm so excited.
Is it?
Yeah, isn't it Acoustic Tuesday? Isn't that who our guest is?
Acoustic Tuesday. Now, I believe his name is Alan Semerdjian. I need to ask him the correct pronunciation of his name.
We'll just call him Big Al.
So he'll be calling in a moment. And we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. I wish I'd pulled out my calendar.
Oh, good. You're really prepared.
I'll pull that out now.
Wow.
So as everyone knows, we do the show live every Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And Alan will be calling in momentarily. Let's see.
Now, wait a minute. Does he remember? Is he going to be one of these guests that know to call on time? Because we've had a running thing now.
Oh, I know.
Is he at a barbecue? Is he? Did he forget at the last minute? I mean, you told him what? 11:05. I'm assuming.
I did communicate with him earlier. I told him call us about 5 after 11. Give us a chance to intro the show. But while we wait for Alan, next week Orion the Rebel, Danny Dragon, and Steve the drummer from Project Hybrid will be with us. On the 15th, we have Michael Helpley-Pierce from Chemical Distance. Mm-hmm. And on the 22nd, we have Stu Cat, a Boston area hip-hop artist who will be with us. Stu Cat.
Wow.
He's a cohort of DZ the Gift. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So tonight we have Alan Semerdjian, if I'm saying his name right. And he is a singer-songwriter from New York City. And this guy's pretty serious. I was looking at his bio. For anyone who wants to go to his website, I'll spell it for you. It's AlanSemerDjian.com. And I think in this cover photo, he looks like John Lennon. You said he looks a little like Woody Allen.
Well, from a distance, he looks like Woody Allen.
Yeah.
He also looks like homeless Peter Criss from a distance as well.
Oh, sure, yes.
Yep, so.
Most people won't take the reference. But
No.
Quite all right. And so we're going to talk to Alan in a minute when he calls in. We'll play a couple of his tunes, and I'm excited.
You sound it.
I've
never heard that much excitement in your voice.
I'm excited.
Before.
This is me excited.
Because it's Acoustic Tuesday.
It is. I'm very excited.
It's Singer-Songwriter Tuesday.
Right. It's not really acoustic. I mean,
no, he has some electric.
It's not like he's a folk singer. You know. No. He's got some. Actually, the production is pretty big. So.
Well, he seems kind of professional in a sense.
Absolutely. Oh no, he's like I said. I was looking at his bio. He started in CMJ. It says here he's played over 900 shows in the past decade. His music's been in TV and in film.
Now, a question we can ask him is if he's ever played the New England scene, because I didn't see anything about any shows coming up local.
No. But I would like to see him if he's planning on getting out this way. So, but there's definitely some cool music and on his site. Actually, while I'm in there, I'll look at the calendar here to see if he has any shows coming up. But I don't see anything specific. So.
The only show he's got coming up is tonight's show.
That's right.
So.
This is the place to be on a Tuesday night.
It is. PM, so. Everybody wants to be here on a Tuesday night.
Absolutely. And we are here at Styling Souls at 832 Elm Street in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. And while we're here, Dan, while we're waiting for Alan, we should mention your show that we do on Thursday nights now at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, Verbal Ejaculation.
Verbal Ejaculation, or if you're on the Ustream, it's Verbal E, right? Because you don't want to put the word ejaculation, because I guess that's offensive to some people.
Yes, some people get uptight.
And that, of course, yes, with my lovely and talented co-host, Chris Rose.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a good time. We were coming up with some topics today earlier of what we're going to be talking about on the show.
Do you care to give us a preview?
Well, no, because then that people listening tonight will not tune into the show if I put up all the if I put all the good material out right now, that's why I didn't put it out on Steve's show. I've had it prepared since Steve's show.
Right.
I didn't want to waste it on that bloated fucker. And I basically had said, I kind of worked on a little bit with Chris today and told him this is, because I'm trying to think, we don't even have a topic yet, really. So
yeah,
I got worried because I said, hey, what do you want to talk about on the show coming up Thursday? He's like, I don't know. I thought you had an idea. And I'm like, I do, but So hopefully by Thursday we'll have more to talk about. But I have some prime material, some good stuff.
Yes.
A lot of stuff about. Again, we're gonna hit the music industry a little bit. I got some things I want to talk about. That should be our guest.
All right.
Look at that.
Sounds like our guest has arrived. Hello, is this Alan?
This is Alan. Is this Matt?
This is Matt. I'm sitting here with my co-host Dan Randlett.
How you doing, Alan?
Good. What's your name again?
Dan.
Dan. How are you, Danny?
Doing wonderful.
Good. Glad to be on here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Alan. Listen, what is the correct pronunciation of your last name?
Semerdjian would be the best way to do it. Semerdjian, I guess the best phonetic, if you want to write it down to remember it, is S-U-H, and then merge ahead, and then Ian. That's probably the best way to do it.
Does your name get butchered a lot?
It does. I flirted with the idea of having a bumper sticker with the actual phonetic pronunciation of it. Actually, it's kind of a funny thing. But yeah, I decided to kind of keep it. It's an Armenian name, and there aren't many Armenians out there in the music business, so I want to keep it. Yeah.
We were looking at your website, and we were struck by your photo. The first photo that pops up on your site. To me, does anyone ever tell you look like John Lennon? That was the first thing I thought when I looked at that photo. I've gotten that a couple of times. Yeah, I've gotten Lennon. I guess it depends on the glasses I'm wearing at the time. But I had a real sort of Lennon period, probably in my mid-20s, when that's all I listened to, and I guess it kind of came out a little bit in the look as well. But yeah, from time to time that happens for sure. Yeah. And you're in New York City. Did you grow up there, or are you just based there now? I am. I kind of grew up, in New York City. I live in Manhattan now, but I grew up in Queens and in Woodside, and then I moved out to Long Island and grew. Most of my sort of formative years were in, Long Island, and then I'm pretty much a New Yorker all the way around. I lived upstate for a little while for college, and then. Lived in Brooklyn, and now I'm back in Manhattan as well. Yeah. Cool. Well, we got a couple tunes that we're going to play tonight, and I figure we'll get to the first one now, if you don't mind hanging on the line for a minute, and then after the song, we'll come back and talk some more. That sounds great. And I was thinking about playing Your Love. What do you think? That would be phenomenal. Yeah, that's a feast on the Big Beauty, so that would be great. Nice. All right. Sounds good. So, Alan, thanks. Just hang on for a minute. We're going to play this track. This is Your Love from Alan Semerdjian on remote transmission on IPMNation.com.
Welcome to IPMNation.com, the next generation of
let's make up, stir the bottom of another cup. Your hand is everything to reach for. When the distance seems to threaten me, what would they say if they knew anyway? It's not Independence Day. So lend me your ears and spin me a horn, the best everything to reach for. And when the distance seems too threatening, I cannot ride more. In the words of this song, ain't no right wrong anyway. When you're in the middle of your own highway. And goes. Your love comes, it comes and goes. Your love comes, it comes and goes. Your love comes, your love comes and goes. Your love comes, it comes and goes. It comes and goes, it comes and goes. Your love comes and goes. Your love comes, it comes and goes. Your love comes.
All right, that was Your Love from Alan Semerdjian. Am I saying that right?
You got it right, Matt.
All right, cool.
Where it's merge and then GN. That's
that's right. Yes, yes.
You got the phonetics. That's good.
Now, Alan, that song "Your Love," now like all other like singer-songwriters and all that, was that written specifically for somebody in your life, or was that kind of a generic song?
Well, Dan, that has some very sort of specific, kind of autobiographical, I guess, references. It's really about kind of a relationship that has, went through that sort of stage of, the stage of like, we're going to take some time stage, which is typically, pretty much spells disaster for most relationships, I guess. But this one kind of has a happy ending, And, I just wanted to kind of like take that idea about, taking time apart and, paint like a happier picture than the usual, scenario. I mean, I feel like there's always a little bit of a bittersweetness in all of my work, maybe. But that one, I mean, just trying to, love it comes and goes, and this kind of cyclical thing that relationships, offer us. That's really what it's about.
Do you do a lot of touring, Alan? I was looking at your bio, and it sounds like you're pretty busy out there.
Yeah, over the last, I've been doing the music thing for a long time, and sort of in the do-it-yourself kind of model for several years. And I've probably done close to 1,000 shows at this point, maybe 950, 1,000, closing in on the 4-digit mark over the last, dozen years or so. Most of the touring is in the summer. I'm a New York City guy, so I do a lot of shows and readings. I'm a writer, I'm a poet as well, so those kind of count as shows too for me. And, I've been doing a bunch over the last dozen years or so, and as I said, mostly in film. I'm also an English teacher. I don't know if I...
Oh, no kidding.
I don't know if I said that earlier, if you saw it in the bio, but... so the summers are really like the time to do a bulk of the touring for me. Whenever there's a new release, a new album that I put out, I usually hit the road, go across country, up and down the East Coast, and just pretty much play wherever I can, really. Some of the sort of bigger bars and clubs in towns, but also I'll do little things too at libraries and bookstores and cafes, and so lately I've been doing a lot of house concerts, living room house concerts, which are incredibly gratifying. I love them because you get such a good connection to people. A real close connection. No amplification, just music in a room. With people and connection. It's wonderful.
Whenever I hear anyone talk about house concerts, I'm always fascinated by the whole idea of it, because I wonder, I mean, in your case, do you find that more challenging in some ways because you're so up close and personal with your audience?
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I mean, I've always, ever since, I'm kind of like sort of the anti-rock guy, I guess, because even when we were first starting out in one of my first bands was Surreal. We're in my early 20s and late teens and stuff. We always kind of had this, like, we always wanted a really, really, really close connection with our audiences. We wanted to be friends with our fans. And if you know anything about the music business, sometimes that's kind of counterintuitive, because I feel like people really want to have, I don't know, they want to have that sort of mystique with an artist, But for me, I've always wanted that close connection. So in a way, it's not really challenging because it's what I always wanted to do instinctually, whenever I was making art. I always wanted to have connection, be close, be intimate.
So you're not intimidated by that?
Yeah, no, I kind of welcome it, really, I guess the challenge is to really maintain that sort of validate what you're doing as an artist while being close with people, as almost like a friend, like a new friend that you met at a party, but that friend is the artist,
Yeah.
So that I guess can be a challenge, but it certainly, to me, it always came so naturally that I don't know. I think that's kind of what it's about for me. So no, I mean, there's always kind of like a logistical challenge in terms of sounding in the room, making sure everybody hears it well, just getting the right sound dynamics and things like that. But other than that, it's really a pleasure, man. It's really, I think it's what we're all born to do, I think.
Now, as far as touring, where have you toured? Have you been all over the country?
Yeah, I mean, the usual spots are, whenever I release a record, obviously I'm in New York City, so I play all the bars and clubs and places in New York City, anywhere from big rooms like the Highline Ballroom to the Living Room, which is one of my favorite spots, to little cafes all over the island, and then up and down the East Coast, I visit Boston a lot, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, I have some good friends and fans there, Philly. I've been out to Chicago a couple of times. Actually, one time in Chicago, but Cleveland a couple of times. L.A. Montreal is actually one of my favorite cities to play. And then, down the East Coast, too. Bunch of places down there. Charlotte has a really cool music scene. The Evening Muse is a really great little space down there. I feel like every city has its own little, hub of art and culture, and that's kind of where I want to be when I'm touring. I just want to find that little counterculture, place, and try to connect with people there.
You mentioned the summer being really the key time for you to do that. Do you do a lot of shows in your home area, during the school year, or do you kind of keep it low key?
No, I do a bunch of shows. I test out a lot of material on Long Island, actually, at a bunch of little cafes and places. There's a little place called The Cup. I don't really even announce it, actually. It's a little place in Wanta. I play there often to try out new material during the school year, I guess. I play a lot of New York City shows during the school year, and just kind of little what I call kind of one-offs, where I'll go somewhere, within the tri-state area, and I'll do like a one-off show, either solo or I'll bring the band along, and but something where I don't have to, it's not going to take too many days in between to travel,
Now, as a teacher, do you integrate music with your teachings at all with the students?
Yeah, I do sometimes. I'm an English teacher, so I do. I kind of lends itself to the written word, obviously. So lyrically, sometimes I'll I'll introduce some stuff that I'm working on to the kids. I run I co-run actually with my friend and colleague Mike Musili. It's a songwriting club, so I do a lot of sharing there with the kids. And I'll tell you, a lot of the feedback kind of informs some of the decisions I make as a songwriter. Because the kids are kind of, they got their pulse, they got their finger on the pulse, So they're really great immediate audiences for feedback. But I don't do too much of it. You might imagine that I do even more in the classroom, but I try to, it's not really, the classroom's not really a stage, so I don't really,
Sure.
The classroom's kind of like more of a laboratory,
Mm-hmm.
less of a stage than a laboratory. So.
Sure. Now, you were mentioning that you went through that Lennon stage. Who else in your life has really influenced you musically that really made you want to, start writing songs, playing guitar, going out there and perform?
Well, I think probably the first, early on for me, and when I say early on, I'm talking about my teens, it was really the music of like kind of the 80s alternative music. I was listening to a lot of R.E.M. and U2, a little bit of The Cure and the Smiths and Morrissey and things like that, kind of alternative rock, I guess. And that still kind of informs me. But what ended up happening, it's kind of funny. It's like a different, I went from really sort of like these big bands that were playing, kind of bigger venues and stadiums, anthemic music, if you will, to much, or more recently, to much more intimate kinds of songwriters. I'm listening to kind of more, I guess, more refined kind of songwriters now. I'm listening to Suzanne Vega a lot. I'm listening to, I don't know, maybe Elvis Costello is a really big influence, I think, on my work, and maybe even people that you may not have heard of so much as it's a songwriter named Tyter, European. His name is Tyter. He's a really great songwriter, I think. That's kind of influenced my work a little bit, and other New York City artists. Jeff Buckley was great. Amy Mann is, I think, terrific songwriter. I love her work. So, like, I've been moving from, I guess, bigger bands as a kid to, like, these kind of individual songwriters who have something to say in a much more private and personal way as opposed to big and anthemic,
Mm-hmm. And you feel that's probably because you're maturing as well, so you're kind of getting into more of a mature level of the influences?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the content definitely speaks to me. What some of these songwriters have to say. Maybe it's a kind of an age connection too. Just the idea of a singular voice putting stuff out versus a collective voice. Growing up, I feel like the dream is always to kind of be in a band, with a bunch of people kind of making a sound and taking that sound on the road or whatever. But I think as I get older and mature as a songwriter, I'm really kind of getting more and more reflective on a personal level, and that comes out for me, that manifests in a way that, I don't know, that connects to a lot of these other individual songwriters that I'm talking about. More of a singular voice than a collective voice.
Sure.
When you're out touring in the summer, do you do it as a solo acoustic tour, or do you take the band with you?
Ideally, I'd love to bring the band along, but it's tough because it can get costly.
Oh yeah.
Because the guys, people got to, they got to get paid, and they're working too, and so what ends up happening is, a lot of the guarantees that the clubs have are considerably smaller and lower these days. So if I'm only going to be making just a limited amount of money on a given night, it's probably easier for me just to go out, and cover my costs just by myself, or maybe with one other person or something like that. I might bring a percussionist along, or whatever it is, a bass player or somebody, an accompaniment. But for the most part, yeah, when I tour, it's just me and the car, just me and the car and the guitar and maybe some toys and a bunch of CDs and my iPod or whatever, and yeah, and it's a real it's a kind of a real kind of gypsy lifestyle. The summers are great like that.
And what do you have out for albums? Do you have at least one full-length disc out?
I have 2 full-length discs out that are solo discs. In 2005, I released a record called "When There's Something Wrong with You," and last year I released "The Big Beauty," which is kind of an Americana-ish, folkish, kind of a rock album. And they're both on iTunes, and they're both available all over the internet and at shows and stuff like that. And and before that, I've done several CDs. I think there's 7 or 8 others, I forget, with different incarnations of musicians and friends and
cool.
and bands that I've been in before. But they're really sort of limited, edition kind of pressings. There aren't many CDs left of that music.
Sure.
They're still available here and there, and people can pick them up at shows, or if they write me online, I could send them the old-fashioned way. But they're not available on iTunes. The only things that are actually available in music stores is my debut stuff. My solo stuff. Yeah.
And I was reading in your bio too that you've had music placed in television shows and in films.
Yeah, that's really been a blessing. I've done some stuff for the WB network years ago, and Lifetime, and a couple of films, and PBS for Road Trip Nation. Took some of my stuff, and I want to do actually more of that as well. Many of my friends who are songwriters are doing a lot of licensing these days, and it's kind of like the new, it's the new way to kind of put yourself out in the world. It's a new kind of, new tool, I guess, to get to audiences. I think it's a good one. There's people. Everything's kind of connected these days. TV shows and music, and when you watch something and you hear a song that you like on that TV show or film or something like that, you're more apt to kind of go get it than perhaps you were years ago. So it's become a real a good way for a lot of my friends and peers and myself to kind of get our stuff out there. I think it's great. I want to do more of it. Actually, that's one of my goals for 2011 is to do more licensing and to get the work out, into more television and film.
Is that a difficult avenue to get into? I mean, that must be enormously competitive.
It is now. Yeah, man, it is. It's there are a lot of music supervisors that find music and place music. You got to get to know certain people, and then they'll push it for you. And I have a kind of a good network of friends that do that kind of thing for a living. That I'm turning to for some guidance on that. And luckily, people have said that what I'm making kind of fits a lot of that the genre of music, I guess, the genre of art. Mm-hmm. Like I don't want to say I'm making cinematic music per se, because it's not quite that, but it definitely is emotional and has a dynamic range emotionally, which tends to fit into kind of dramatic situations. I welcome opportunities to do more of that, even though it is a challenge. Yeah.
Sure. And where can we find you online, Alan, for anyone who wants to find your music and where you're playing and all that?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to do it is to go to the website, which is Alan, A-L-A-N, Semerdjian, which is SEMERDJIAN.com. If you misspell it, I'm sure Google will fix it for you. But take a stab at it if you're listening. But you can get it on iTunes. But as far as concert stuff, go to alansemerdjian.com, or there's a Facebook fan page that I built a little while ago, which is definitely a good way to connect with happenings and events. And there's MySpace too, although MySpace is, it's becoming kind of a relic at this point.
Really? Yeah, I get very differing opinions when I talk to different musicians about that. A lot of people I've noticed, still think it's vibrant and worthwhile, and a lot of people take the take the position that MySpace is in fact sort of dying off. So you think it's starting to die off?
Yeah, it's the thing with MySpace is that it's become kind of a home for all. It's mostly musicians, actually, in my experience with the MySpace. I put up a recent post on MySpace that says, because the robots have taken over MySpace, you can find me more on Facebook, and that's kind of the way I view it. There's all these sort of like machines that are like sort of mass emailing and mass this stuff on MySpace, and that kind of like takes that really goes against kind of who I am. With regard to what we talked about earlier with the house concerts and the intimacy and stuff like that. So I kind of feel like MySpace is, for me personally, less of an interest right now. It still exists. I don't really post stuff that much anymore on there. There's some music on there, and certainly people can contact me on there, but certainly don't check it. And I have some people working for me that check it from time to time, but for the most part, it's Facebook and the website.
Sure. Do you do a lot of the social networking? Do you really utilize that to promote yourself?
I try to. Yeah, I do. I from time to time I have a team that helps with stuff. Kind of a little bit of a publicity team. Mm-hmm. I had some students in the past that were really helpful and savvy, and they kind of helped out with that end. Just getting the word out for. Usually it's around a tour that's developing or a new release, like when the album was released last year and a video that I made. We really pushed it through the social networking medium. But there's certain times in the year where I use it more often than others. But ultimately, I think it's a great way. I mean, it's not even a good or bad way. It's the way, I think, to communicate right now for everybody, so musicians are, not an exception.
Absolutely. Do you have anything?
Now, Alan, it's kind of hard to pinpoint like a specific genre of your music. What would you classify yourself as? Like, what would you, for our listeners out there, like what kind of music would you actually spend?
I kind of came up with a term, based on some reviews over the last bunch of years. I kind of call the stuff. I call it semi-pop indie folk. Semi-pop indie folk is kind of like a little bit of a hybrid title that I came up with based on some reviews and stuff, and I think it kind of describes the music aptly. It's melodic, folky kind of music. It's definitely in the rock genre, but it's idiosyncratic. It's not like you're not going to get some sort of clean and polished, straightforward, linear kind of song that, is just, fits on like some, it fits on some sort of like, automated, server for pop music or whatever. It doesn't quite work that way. It has this kind of, it's kind of a culmination of all my different interests, and I come from this alternative tradition, this kind of counterculture thing. So you're going to have like little hints of folk and little hints of punk and little hints of alternative rock, and so it's a bit of a hybrid, and people call it singer-songwriter music, but even that is kind of a vague term these days.
Sure.
I just want to make really kind of, honest and compelling emotional music for people to connect to. I think that's really my goal: honest, emotional, compelling, music for people to listen to in their cars and to listen to somehow make sense of their own lives. That's really the goal.
Now, do you feel that with all those different genres that you're kind of combining, is that what really makes you unique?
Say that again, Dan?
Well, with the eclectic mix that you grew up with different types of music that you listen to, and you kind of integrated a lot of that into your music today, do you feel that is what really makes you unique in this world?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I definitely, I hope that it kind of presents a unique, or a composite of an artist. I think that we are many things in this world. All of you guys are. I am. But I meet on the street. It's like we're so with all this technology these days. I mean, you look at somebody's phone or something, and you have images and different kinds of songs in their iPod and all these different. And I feel like because technology has made media so accessible that it's hard for us to be. When I say us, I'm talking about human beings. To be like one thing these days. We're a lot of different things. So I guess I feel like in some ways, I am unique, but in other ways, I think I'm just kind of being honest with the time. I'm kind of just trying to be current with the time, and by that I mean that I'm incorporating all the different disparate parts of myself, that come together and make me, and make you, and all of us. And I think that the honesty has something to do with that too. Is that sometimes we don't want to let those parts in because it's not cool or hip or whatever sometimes. And the last thing I'm interested in being is this sort of uber hip thing. That's not really, definitely not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is being sort of honest and real. And then you can call that hip if you want. I don't know, but for me, I guess that's the unique part of it, is just the honest part of it, maybe.
Cool. Well, Alan, thanks very much for being here with us this week.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to talk to you guys. It looks like you got a cool show going over there, and I hope that some listeners, dig into the music, after the show, and kind of build a relationship with it.
Absolutely. Well, we do have the 2 tracks that you sent us in rotation currently, and
cool.
I would remind everyone too that this episode will be probably within the next 30 minutes. We'll have it up and available for download.
Wow, that's pretty efficient. That's
yeah,
great.
we try.
That's great, man. That's cool.
And you're free to, of course, to download it and post it anywhere you want, do whatever you want with it. But and we're gonna actually wrap up the show with "Can't Wait." And anything you want to tell us about that song?
Can't Wait, man. That's a real sort of personal song that we, I made a pretty compelling video for with a director, Heiko Cherian. It's on YouTube. You can find it there too, on my website. It's just about trying to see what's in front of us and work towards the things in life that we want, and our aspirations, our dreams, our hopes, and people have said that it really kind of resonates for them a lot, and I'm real glad about that. I'm real thankful for the responses I've gotten for the song. I hope people enjoy it. It's one of the most sort of pure songs on the record, I think, too. Real simple, honest song.
Very cool. So, yeah, we're going to wrap up the show with that. But before we let you go, Alan, can you hit us with the website address one more time? We'll put a link to it up, too, when we post the show, but just so for anyone who's still fuzzy on the spelling.
It's Alan, A-L-A-N, Semerdjian, S-E-M-E-R-D as in David, Jian.com.
Okay.
And just another thing, too, if New York City listeners are checking out, or people in the area, I'm going to be doing a show with Neil Nathan, who's a pretty great songwriter in New York City, on July 20th at the Highline Ballroom, and a couple of other bands as well, too. I'm sure ticket information is going to be coming out for that pretty soon. It's a Tuesday night in the middle of New York City summer, and I hope some people can come out and check it out.
Sounds like a good time, definitely.
Yeah, you guys are welcome.
All right, well, we'll keep that in mind. It's hard. It's hard to get away with all the radio stuff we do, I'll tell you.
I bet, man.
It's a good problem to have, though.
No, it is you're doing great work, man, and I appreciate you having me.
Oh, anytime. Thanks, Alan.
No, thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
Alan Semerdjian, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a great evening.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so that was Alan Semerdjian here on Remote Transmission on IPMNation.com, and now we know how to say his last name.
Yep, Semerdjian.
Yes. So cool guy. Very articulate.
Very talented.
Absolutely. And, of course, we want to remind everybody next week we'll have, assuming they remember to call in on time, Orion the Rebel and Danny Dragon and Steve the drummer from Project Hybrid. As Dan and I know all too well.
I was going to say, Orion is never on time.
Orion is never on time, but I will...
Danny is. Danny's on time
Danny's
usually,
punctual,
and Steve the drummer's usually punctual.
Yes. So I will harass them all with phone calls and text messages on the day of the broadcast. So, and we want to remind everyone also to be back here on Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time for...
Verbal ejaculation.
Yes.
Now, also, you have Norm tomorrow, right? For
Yeah,
live?
absolutely. You can also tune in tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. here on IPMNation.com for Norm and Friends. It used to be Norm's Psychic World. It's now Norm and Friends.
Yeah.
So from 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon, and we do take live calls. Or if you're in the Manchester, New Hampshire area, you can actually watch the show live on television on TV 23.
Wow.
But you can also stream it here on IPMNation.com. And then Norm Unfiltered at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon, Eastern Time. All times Eastern, because we're on the East Coast.
That makes sense.
Here at Styling Souls at 832 Elm Street in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire.
Wonderbar. So we're going to listen to Can't Wait.
This is Can't Wait from Alan Semerdjian.
Wonderful.
Thank you, as always, for joining me, Dan.
Thank you for having me here.
All right, thanks, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Can't wait for the day when my words stop being weapons to swear. I can't wait for the day I'll cast these busted habits away. For the day my mouth will have something to say. I can't wait for a time when I won't be relying on rhyme. I can't wait for the cake that celebrates our different mistakes. I can't wait most every day, all the time. La da da. I can't wait for a sign that I can make it better next time. I can't wait can say I'm finally awake.